All right, everybody, how are you tonight? A couple minutes early again. Uh, Obviously, we're at Sunday here, so it's very, very cold here at the homestead. We're about 5 degrees. Had snow off and on all day at about 4 inches so far, and it's lightly snowing right now. So very, very fun. But it's funny, got the wood stove cranking, right? Got all the windows open because it gets too hot. So I got my tea. I'm ready to go. All right, so we're going to talk today. So a couple things before we get into the topic real quick, and I'm going to talk about the topic, and then we'll do questions after the topic. But so did my Yellowstone video 2 weeks ago now, and the title was, will Yellowstone blow within 2 weeks? That was a question. It was a question, right? I could not believe the number of people that said, well, you said that Yellowstone was going to blow in 2 weeks. And I never said Yellowstone was going to blow in 2 weeks. I said, will the Yellowstone blow in 2 weeks? Not meaning 2 weeks from that date. And sometime in the future, could it blow within a 2 week period of time? So I found that quite amusing that people misread the title and assumed that I was making a prediction when I wasn't. So that was fun. All right, so let's jump into the topic. Hospitals. What's going to happen with hospitals after S.H.T.F. happens, okay? How do you want to come over and say hello real quick?
I don't have a choice, do I?
Well, you have a choice. You can say no. Well, she's got to adjust her look real quick, and then she's going to come over and say hello. The camera's right here on this side, so you got to look this way at it. There she is. Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Oh, Heather's got the white devil. This cat is full of piss and vinegar is the right term, I think. Are you going to put him up on top of me?
Yeah.
So anyway, so what's going to happen with nursing homes once SHTF happens? Okay, thank you, dear. Most nursing homes, or not nursing homes, I'm sorry, hospitals. We're talking about hospitals. Hospitals in general, they have a backup generator, okay? They have enough fuel to keep those hospitals going from anywhere from 3 days to a week. That's pretty much at max, okay? So they would, if they really cut down a lot of essential stuff, they might be able to double that length of time with that they could actually keep power going at the hospital. And we're talking if it was not an EMP. So we're talking about just a grid down situation. That local hospital is going to, with the backup generator, it's going to run, like I said, between 3 and 7 days. That's what they have, and so they're obviously going to be a priority to get those up first in a grid down situation. So anyway, so depending on what the event would be, okay, and every event would mean different kind of circumstances for the staff of a hospital and everything like that. But let's go with like a absolutely worst case scenario. What would that be like for the hospital staff? Okay. Well, basically, they would not be allowed to leave. And so I think what you would see is after a couple of days, I think a lot of people would really try to keep things going, try to be helpful and stuff like that, hoping that things were going to be okay. But after about 3 to 5 days, I think a lot of staff would realize that it was not a good situation. And I think probably even before then, you would see some people start to slip away. They would definitely leave and not come back, because you got to realize most people that are nurses, doctors, CNAs, phlebotomists, anybody working in a hospital, x-ray technicians, anybody that's in that hospital, they got families of their own. So if it's a worst case scenario, pretty quickly people are going to be taken off and not coming back. Now you're going to have some hardcore people that are going to stay there no matter what to try to help, which is very admirable. But if you have a family, like I said, most people are going to be gone and go take care of their family. And what happens when that runs out, that gas in the backup generators and stuff runs out? What happens then? You're talking about a lot of critical people that would not be making it because of those situations. So that's a really scary thing to look at. Anybody that needed some kind of an elective surgery, something like that, they're going to be in big, big trouble. Not elective surgery, but needing to have a surgery, for a life-saving surgery. They're going to be in big, big trouble. Now, if it was some kind of a pandemic and the hospital was being overrun basically with sick people, I think you're going to see staff disappear a lot quicker in those type of situations because they don't want to be around it. They don't want, they're going to go home and make sure that their own families are okay first before anything else. They're not going to worry about, what anybody else thinks as far as that goes. So I think that those are the things that you're going to see happen. Again, it really depends on the event, but in a worst case situation, you're going to see a lot of people that are going to be heading home, and they're not going to stick around because it's like, they don't know if they're ever going to get paid again. They don't know if the event is going to end or something like that. Carlos, hey, how you doing tonight, buddy? Thank you very much, man. Very appreciated. Thank you. So now I want to open it up to questions here. Do you have some questions or some thoughts? What do you think is going to happen in the hospital setting after an SHTF event? And we can talk about it. So, or like I said, if you have any questions. Yep, this Colleen just said Katrina should have taught everyone. Again, now if you have a question, guys, throw it all in all cap locks for me so that I can, it'll stand out for me. Seeks the Truth said, that's why all medical procedures should be taken care of ASAP. I agree 100%. Anything that you have been putting off that you need, and I talked about this in a recent video, you really need to take care of any kind of medical issues, any kind of dental issues that you are having right now. If you can get things done now, go get it done now. It's going to make a big, big difference after an event happens. The day after an event happens, it's too late to do anything else. What you do before an event happens can save your life. Longtime lurker wanted to know what generic meds, if Tylenol, etc., will last longest on the shelf. Yeah, your Tylenol, your Advil, those type of things, they got a pretty long shelf life. They're really, really good to have. I generally buy, hey, Heather. Never mind. I just picked up a 2-pack of Advil, and there's 500 in each pack. So that's how I generally buy it. If we need Advil and stuff like that, I generally get it that way so that we have plenty on hand. And again, thinking of that ahead in that emergency situation. But that's something that we use on a regular basis is Advil. So, do you prep for anyone who knows they cannot afford to prep for themselves? I do. My sister is, not financially well off, so I definitely do prep for her. I prep for my niece and her boys. I've kind of talked about that a little bit before. They really don't do any kind of preps, so I definitely have it in my game plan to take care of them when something does happen. So yes, I do that. Just before the one you answered. Mary Hill, could you throw it up there again for me, please, hon? I didn't see it. How much food do you have in pounds? Oh, I hate to think, to be honest with you. I'm going to give you an example. One thing, rice. I probably have on hand, and it's north of this number, so I don't know the exact number, but over 750 pounds of rice alone. So that's just one thing. I have that much of it on hand because rice is a great thing to have. Let's see what we got here. What about fish antibiotics? I talked about those before. Fish mox and amoxicillin are the exact same thing. So if you can go ahead and go to, the fish places online, and if you can get it, I'm not going to tell you that you should do it. I will say that I would do it myself. I would add fish mox that way for myself and for my family. So you can take that for what it is. It's the exact same thing. And you can get that without a prescription, but they're calling it fish mox. It is for fish, but it's definitely something. It's the exact same thing as amoxicillin. Okay. Are you sure this will happen, or is it just a conspiracy? Let's put it like this. I'm not a conspiracist. I don't believe that, I feel that something in our lifetime is going to happen. There's so many things that could happen. Just like our monetary system. That system cannot continue the way it is. At some point, it will collapse. It has to. There's no way it can continue. It's not sustainable to continue the way it is. At some point, some kind of pandemic will come out that will have a high mortality rate. It's proven through history. It's happened over and over and over again. And you look at all the people that we have now in concentrated areas, it's a hotbed waiting for it to happen. And when it happens, it'll snap off like that, and it would be really, really bad. So Will there be sun flares in the future? Yes, there will. I mean, so you're going to have different things that are going to happen. Okay. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So, those are the things that, it's like to be prepared for whatever. I've said this before, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So that's important and something to think about. And the day after something happened, you can't get anything more at that point. So what do I think about sutures and skin? Okay. Sutures in your skin, I mean, it's like those you can take out yourself if you had to. So, knowing how to sew somebody up if there's like a major cut and stuff like that, that's really important to know how to do. All kinds of great videos on that, a lot of information on that. So that's something that you might want to study up on. Having that material ahead of time, having those the thread that turns like that, you know what I'm talking about? Like the needle looks like that, and you can turn it to thread something up. That's a good thing to have on hand as well. Having different stuff is really, really good. Let's see. Would fishing line work? In an emergency situation, absolutely it'll work. Thread would work in an emergency situation. Whatever you have on hand, you use what you have to do. You know what I mean? If you're talking about somebody's life, and if they're in a situation where you need to get that cleaned up and sewn up right away, whatever you have on hand is going to be definitely something that you need to do. Okay? What are you doing, Soxy? If you see the camera vibrating, it's because Soxy's here. Yes, I see you. Do I really believe cities will explode in a violence in SHTF? Absolutely. Guys, I talk. Sox, come on, go lay down, good girl. How will you feed your livestock? I'll get to that in a minute. Merry Christmas. I want to, and thank you, but I'll get to that in just a second. I want to talk about the cities real quick first. In the cities, guys, look at how people treat each other now. Cities, countries, wherever. In the United States, look at how people treat each other now with rule of law. Without rule of law, it would be a freaking nightmare in the cities. You take away people's ability to feed themselves and those other things like that, it's going to be very, very difficult. Okay, so people, the animal instinct in people will come out, and it'll be a survival instinct, and I think it would be very, very, very bad in the cities. That's my opinion. You look at, take Hurricane Katrina, what happened down in New Orleans, okay? Take that as a microcosm. Study on that, guys. See how it was down there for people. See how it was in the Superdome for people. Find the true information out, okay? It's scary, very, very scary. A lot of rapes, a lot of murders, a lot of assaults. A lot of those type of things are going to happen. And, in the SHTF event, the cities would be brutal. They would be a horrible place to be. You would have to lay low, try to ride it out if you could, and just be as ready as you could be. People will go crazy. Merry Christmas. Just put that up again, and thank you again. He just said people went crazy in Hurricane Harvey. He saw it himself. Now, as far as his other question with livestock, having enough stuff on hand for your livestock is going to be important. Like with the cool thing with chickens, a lot of times with chickens, if it's summertime and spring, if you let them free range, they're going to be able to basically feed themselves. Having enough supplies on hand, I think, is going to be important. You have to look at, okay, what do I need and what do I want as far as I'm just using chickens as an example, but having enough feed on hand ahead of time, have it in galvanized garbage cans so that the mice and the rats and stuff don't get into it. The same thing with if you have horses or what like that, making sure that you have, corn and feed and whatever hay or whatever else you're going to need. Make sure you have plenty of that on hand, or that you have access to it nearby. That's going to be important. Okay, so let's see. Is SHTF expected soon? Viola, we never know when it's going to happen. I've talked about this a lot. The signs are that bad things are coming. Okay. When SHTF happens, it's going to be a surprise to everybody. The event itself may be a surprise to everybody. I think people are going to be shocked. They're going to be like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. So I think that is going to be the situation when SHTF happens. It's like everything's going to be going along. There might be this little event or that event. We got to remember, guys, a lot of the stuff that goes on is all distractions, okay? So I want you to think about that. You got to weed through the BS to look at what's really going on. And so a lot of stuff that happens are all distractions. And again, there's a lot of pitting, left against the right, white against black. There's a lot of nonsense going on. So you have to weed through all that nonsense and really look at the big picture and say, okay, what's really going on? And search for that information. And a lot of times you're going to find that. You really will. Okay. Let's see. What can someone use for numbing pain when putting in stitches? Here's like, they have like stuff that you can, lidocaine, get lidocaine, put that on there. That's going to help topically beforehand. And that would be something that would be good to have, for stitches. So, let's see. How long does insulin last? EpiPen, or expires? Yeah, it really depends on, like with the EpiPens they have now, they can really last quite a long time. If you are insulin dependent, guys, I'm a realist and I'm not going to blow smoke up your behind. Your life expectancy is not going to be as long unless you can get, if the best thing that I would suggest for people that are insulin dependent right now, unless you were born insulin dependent, a lot of people became insulin dependent because of weight. If you can get that weight off now is the time to do that. You really don't want to get yourself in a situation where you have to rely on that to survive, because the life expectancy just will not be there. I mean, that's being honest, okay? Any suggestions for storing food in a tiny house? There's always places that you can put food. Under a bed, if you have a cupboard, they're like in a closet, you can put a line of stuff up in the closet, or a rack in the back of the closet and put stuff in that way too. Instead of having a table, using, food buckets, 5-gallon buckets, those type of things, and use those as your nightstand or whatever, and then just put a piece of board or something on the top of that. That would be a good way. There's always ways to hide things or to utilize space in a tiny home. I mean, it's like, depending on how tiny it is too, obviously, but there's definitely different ways to really maximize your space. Let's see. Oh, good barter, yeah, like tobacco and stuff. Yeah, tobacco would definitely be good. The thing is, the things that are going to be big after an event: drugs, alcohol, tobacco. They're always still going to be in demand, okay? So those are things that you need to think about. I mean, obviously, you don't want to really keep drugs on hand, but, that's what people are going to be going for, because they're going to want to still numb that pain. They don't want to think about stuff. They don't want to deal with stuff. And especially if it's a SHTF situation, once your drug addicts can't get any more drugs from the drug dealers, they're going to be out there looking for stuff. So that's something to be very cautious about, very concerned about, okay? Let's see. Do I think FEMA will confiscate preps? I think you'd be more concerned about local authorities trying to confiscate preps, to be honest with you. Depending on the severity of the event. If it's a nationwide SHTF situation, there's going to be people that are going to come around and say, we know, that you have stuff here and we're going to confiscate it for the greater good. Now, it's going to be your decision at that point to defend what you have or give them what you have. Depending on how they're coming at you, you have to make that call on your own. That's an individual call for everybody. I can't tell you what to do. The biggest thing that I've talked about this before, again, is having caches of food, clothing, supplies, other things that you're going to need in case of an event, buried away in hidden spots, that where if somebody came in force to confiscate your stuff, that you're going to have backup stuff. I think that's really, really important, and I've talked about that quite a bit. So I definitely would recommend that. What about going to the hospital to volunteer, retired RN, BSN? You know what? That's going to be your call. I mean, again, depending on the severity of the event, if you don't have loved ones that you need to take care of, if you're a retired RN, BSN, like you said, your skill set that you have to a group would be so valuable, or to in your neighborhood. You would be very, very highly valued to, they would want to help you survive, because you would really be a very huge contribution to any group. Anybody in the medical fields, period. I've talked about this a little bit before. Your value goes like way, way up in an SHTF event. Okay, so think about that. At a hospital, they're going to use you and burn you out, and you might not walk out of there alive, to be honest with you. So you have to take those things into consideration. Let's see. You're an Wolfang, ex-Navy, CB. You know what? You got some great skill sets there alone too, man. You would be. Look at your skills that you have, guys. Okay, and if you don't have a lot of skills that would be practical, learn how to sew. Let's say you can't do a lot of physical stuff. Okay, learn how to sew. Learn how to make shoes. Know how to cook. Do something that's going to make you a valuable member of some group that they're going to need. Okay, knowing herbs, knowing wild edibles, medicinal plants. Okay, those are things that you are going to be hugely, hugely valuable to a group that they would take you in, because you're going to help them survive. And when it comes down to when SHTF happens, guys, it's coming down to survival. And we all want to live. I don't care. I see different people sometimes in comments on different videos that I put up, and they'll say, well, why would I want to live after something horrible happened? I wouldn't want to. Yeah, you still will. You can talk and say all those type of things. And will there be people that give up? Absolutely, there will be, okay? There will be people that quit. But if you, the will to live is so ingrained in us as human beings, and is so strong. For the most part, most people, and I say most people, 75, 80% of the people are going to do everything they possibly can do to survive. And that's the reality, okay? Let's see. What do I think might happen to the Midwest? You know, like I said, I've talked about this before. The biggest concerns that I have would be a grid down situation. I think that's hugely, hugely possible. I think it'll be allowed to happen and blamed on a terrorist event. That's my opinion. That's not just going to affect the Midwest. That's going to affect everybody. So if you're out in the Midwest and maybe you're in a spot that doesn't have a great water resource, make sure you got plenty of water on hand, because dying of thirst is not a way you want to go. Okay, so if you can get access to water, that's going to be a huge, huge thing out in the Midwest. So that's something to think about. Let's see. All right, Robert, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you go kicking and screaming. You're going to fight to every fiber of your being. That is just human nature, okay? It's ingrained in us to survive, So it's like, even though we've become soft, we've become lazy, we've become complacent, I think as more and more people are waking up to what's going on, I think that's awesome. Being prepared is great. Merry Christmas. I disagree. He says, bartering will get you killed. None is prepared. I agree there's not a lot of people that are prepared, but once things settle down, initially, yes, I would not barter initially. What do I mean by initially? I'm talking probably the first 90 days. I want to try to lay low as much as I possibly can. After 90 days, guys, a lot of the killing is going to be done, okay? A lot of the killing is going to stop after that point. People will group up. There'll be communities. And once you have a community established, if you can send somebody to talk to that other group, maybe talk about that barter situation, and you can have a mutually beneficial partnership with somebody, and people are going to form groups to also protect and support each other from roving bands of really, truly bad guys. Small towns are going to group up together. They're going to close off their borders, and they're not going to let people in, okay? That's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, and that's how I see things going down. So bartering down the road absolutely is going to be a good thing. The first 90 days of SHTF worst case scenario event, I would recommend laying low and not think about bartering, not think about anything. Just staying tight, staying in a controlled environment where you can keep your people and your preps safe. That's what I would suggest. After that 90 days, just kind of feel it out depending on where you are. Let's see. What is SHTF? S hits the fan. So when you have a number 2, that is S. Okay, so that's what SHTF is. What do you have for EMP? What if it have? You know what? Have a Faraday cage. so you can have some electronics. Faraday cages, you can look online how to make them. They're not difficult to make. Have electronics in there so that you have some backup electronics. I have the solenoids are one of the things, like with my solar system, that would fry in an EMP event. I have backup solenoids to put into my solar panel so that they start working again. Those are in an EMP proof bag already. So having those type of things, that's going to be really, really important. Walkie-talkies, ham radio, CBs. Oh, and just I wanted to put this out here too. I have a CB and I believe a ham radio all coming. One of my subscribers has sent that to me. It's in the P.O. box. I have to go pick that up tomorrow. So when I get that, I will show you guys that in a video and stuff like that. And then we'll talk about that also in a video, okay? Oh, and just while I'm thinking about it too, well, because it's like I keep getting hammered with questions, and that's great. I'm glad. But I wanted to let you guys know too, starting at midnight tonight, which is going to be Monday, for 1 week, we're going to be doing another sale on my website, preparedness1.com. Anything on my website, 20% off. The legacy foods, if you wanted to get a T-shirt or if you want to get a coffee mug, and there's an example of the coffee mug, okay? 20% off of anything on the website. We're going to run that for 1 week. That's going to start at midnight tonight. So I wanted to put that out there for you guys. The discount code is going to be summer, please, because I've had enough of winter, and I'm sure anybody in the Northeast has already had enough of winter, and we wish it was summer already. So summer, please, is going to be the code. 20% discount for anything you purchase on my website from starting at midnight tonight for 1 week. We're going to do it for 1 week. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys, okay? Where do you get a CB radio? You can go online. You can get them online anywhere. You can go to eBay. You can find them there. You know, the easy places to find a CB radio. You know, go to like the easiest place is going to be online to find that. All right, let's see. Yeah, EMP kills electronics, anything with a program chip. Absolutely. An EMP would be one of the worst things that could happen to us, other than a direct nuclear strike, because that's going to fry everything. And it would take years and years and years for them to get things back up and running. And I talked a little bit about this before. What I believe what would happen if an EMP event happened, after a certain amount of times, they would have cities, different cities that they would get up and running. And that would be the safe haven where you could come in and for a trade of labor or whatever, you could have access to medical, you know, all those type of things. That's how they'll do it, in my opinion. That's one of the things that they definitely will do, okay? And they will control you when they do that, just so you know. What do I think about the cold snap that's coming next week? Not looking forward to it. I know that we're looking at a couple days of minus double-digit numbers here in New York, and that's just going to be the air temperature. With the wind chill, who knows what it's going to be. The weather, I mean, it's wintertime. You know, we have cold snaps. That's what happens. So, you know, we're almost done with February. We're almost done with January. Once we get through February, you know, then hopefully the days are already getting longer, which is nice. But, you know, we just got to get through this. It's just, you know, that's what happens. But, you know, it could be a direct relation to grand solar minimum as well. I think that is a huge possibility. We are entering a colder period. That's why they changed it from global warming to climate change. So, yes, there are vegetarian choices at the Legacy Food. Yes, there are. So they have everything that actually is vegetarian. You can buy meat products as well from the website as well. You can buy chicken and beef. But everything that's made, it's all vegetarian. So just so you know that. Let's see. So do classifying won't affect CB radio or ham radio? Yes, it will. An EMP will definitely affect a CB and a ham radio, yes, because you have those different components in there and they will fry. So again, having a CB or having a ham radio and having it in a Faraday cage ahead of time. So if you want to play around with a CB or ham radio, then get two of them, one to put away and one to use. Because if the event is an EMP event, you're going to have some kind of way to try to communicate and stuff like that. I would say have walkie-talkies as well. Put those away as well. There's a lot of things that are going to go into that you're going to want to think about. What do I need? What components am I going to need to have as far as a backup and stuff like that? Like if you were on solar, having a backup charge controller, having a backup inverter, Those are going to be important to have put away so that you can restart your system so that you can have power again. But here's the thing to remember. If an EMP is done, maybe 4 weeks later, maybe they throw a second EMP to fry everything that people brought out afterwards. So that's something to think about. Again, what you might want to do if there's an EMP, and again, I talked about this a little bit earlier, wait that 90 days. You want to be the gray man. You want to be as low key as possible. You don't want to have lights lit up like, this, like we have right now. You want to be like everybody else. You don't have this. You don't have that. You want to play low key. So those are things to think about. After that 90 days or so, then maybe bring those components out and use them at that point to try to get your lights back on and stuff like that. But in the beginning, I would definitely try to be as low key as possible. Let's see. What do I think will happen if Yellowstone erupted? That is the Yellowstone and the other supervolcanoes that we have around the world. Those are end of life events. Okay, 100 miles away from Yellowstone, everything would be decimated. Beyond that, you're looking at about a 500-mile area where pretty much life would be non-existent. Okay, beyond that point, you would have less and less ash. But the part that people forget about is, now again, if Yellowstone goes, guys, it might not be one of the super events. It might just be a smaller one. Even a smaller event out of Yellowstone would be very catastrophic. But if it was a super event out of Yellowstone, you're putting so much stuff into the upper atmosphere, it's going to block out the sunlight. 6 weeks after a super event, you would start to see the plants die because the sun would be blocked out. You could be looking at up to 10 years of a volcanic winter. So, animals are not going to survive that. Plants are not going to survive that. So the thing that would be the most important thing to do is slaughter any animals that you had right away, cows, sheep, whatever you had to do, and put them in cold storage. If you could do that as soon as you possibly could. And, try to keep some animals alive if you could. But once those foods run out, that's going to be the end of that. So, a super volcano going off with a maximum event would definitely reduce the population hugely, and it would not be pretty. And that's worldwide. That wouldn't just be the United States. The United States would be over as we know it, but worldwide it would affect everything. Let's see. How do you feel millennials would fare in a serious SHTF situation? Millennials, I think, would be, and thank you very much too, by the way, millennials would be in deep, deep doo-doo because they are so used to having electronics. There's such a huge part of their life. That's all they've ever known. They've never lived in a world like us, some of us older folks, where we had rotary phones and you had to get up to change the channel on a TV and you had 3 channels to choose from. We saw the computers come in. They've only had computers in their life. So with that whole situation, that would be very, very traumatic for millennials. They would not be able to handle that well. I think some would, don't get me wrong. There's some great millennials out there, some good, hardworking kids. But unfortunately, a lot of them would be in just complete panic mode. I think it would be very, very bad, very, very bad for millennials because I don't think that they would adjust well, especially the older ones. Kids will adjust, okay? And when I say kids, under 15, kids are very resilient. They will adjust to anything, and they will embrace the new normal, if you will. Anybody older than that, it's going to be very traumatic. So, especially if they're not prepared for it or don't realize it's coming and have done nothing to help themselves, that's going to be a problem, okay? Let's see. Let me see what we got here. The human brain or the heart? Well, if you have a pacemaker, you might as well forget it. With an EMP lights out, you're done because that's helping keep you alive. So you're going to lose. Think about how many people have pacemakers out there, guys. They're, like I said, anybody that is compromised, severely compromised, they're in deep trouble when an event comes, okay? Morbidly obese people, the mentally retarded people, people that are on life-saving treatments. If you are receiving cancer treatments because you have cancer and now all of a sudden you can't get those treatments anymore, that cancer is going to advance and it's going to take you out. dialysis, people on dialysis, anybody that is on any kind of respiratory that if you have to have a ventilator to survive with no power, that turns off and they're done. Okay, so very, very scary stuff, guys. Real scary stuff. And in my career, I've taken care of a lot of vent-dependent people. Very, very nice people. And it would be a shame to have something like that happen. But what can you do? You have no control over that. Millennials are 84 to 97, not the generation mistaken most often are the computer ones. Yeah, like I said, it's that, the millennials, like I said, they grew up with electronics, and the newer generation even more so. I mean, my kids were born in, 2001. So, they've known nothing but having a cell phone and having computers and having those type of things. That's just what they grew up with. Now, I will say this, Heather did not get a cell phone at 8 years old. I thought that when I saw people doing that, I thought that was ridiculous. Once we moved here, I got her a cell phone because with me working and being away from home, if she needed to get in contact with me in an emergency, that's why that I, made sure that she had, a way to get a hold of me. So she got her first phone, I think, at about 13. Let's see. Yeah, most hospitals, if I could speak, run at 80% every day without an emergency. So think about how overwhelmed the hospital is going to be in that emergency situation with everybody looking for help. And again, because that hospital is going to have power, if it's not an EMP event, that hospital is going to have power. And when people don't have power, they're going to gravitate towards places that do. Okay, so that's something to think about. Naomi, that's great that you've done that. Yeah, I think, a lot of times the younger generation is being raised by television. A lot of parents will put their kids in front of that TV, and that TV becomes the babysitter. That's definitely detrimental. You need to have that interaction with your children and to be part of their lives, to sit down and listen to what they have to say, talk about their day, their life, what their hopes and dreams are. With my daughter, Heather, a good example, she's going to be going to college. So she's undecided. She's kind of, going back and forth with what she wants to do as far as college goes. So, I basically, it's up to her. I mean, I kind of tried to guide her a little bit, and she said that she didn't want to do what I had suggested, which is fine. I support whatever choice that she makes. She's thinking of going into the sciences, possibly on the research end. I think that she would excel in something like that. She's very, very sharp, very analytical, looks at stuff, solves the problems. I think that would be a great thing for her to be into. Let's see. Zombies do not exist. Love the movies. Closest thing is rabies infection. Okay, it's funny. Because we're talking about zombies for a second. This is my opinion of what a zombie would be in an SHTF event. The zombies will be normal, everyday people that have not prepared, that are wandering, that are looking for food, water, shelter. Okay, they will be starving, so they're not going to be thinking rationally. When you don't have that regular diet, you're not going to be thinking as clearly and as rationally as you normally would. So that's where the zombie part of it's going to come in from. And they're going to do whatever they have to do to get that food. If they think that you have food and they don't, they're going to try to take it from you if they can, or they're going to try to beg it from you. And if you won't give it to them, then they're going to come back and try to take it. So those are things you guys really need to think about in that type of situation. Again, low key as much as you can in the beginning. Be like everybody else and just be prepared, be ready, have stuff put away. Everyone should practice SHTF by rationing food. Not a bad idea. I did a thing a while back where I talked about doing a challenge where you rationed you try to fast for 3 days. I talked about that. Try that and see what it's like. Then you'll really, truly realize how hungry you would be even after 3 days. And drink as much water as you want. Not anything else, just strictly water. So you don't want to be, drinking pop and stuff like that. But just drink water and don't eat for like 3 days. You will get a whole new realization of how important food is and how quickly your body will start to break down, how quickly your mind will start to break down without having that food. It will happen very, very quickly. So that's something to think about. And it's a great test. Great test. Your neighbors are your number one threat. I agree with you 100%. The first threat you're going to have is going to be your neighbors, unless you can bring them into the fold that you can work together. I've like I said, I have certain neighbors here where I live. You saw two of them yesterday, Chris and Greg. They're great people. They're also preppers. We have already talked about working together, when things go south. And so the more people that you can add into your group, again, I talked about safety in numbers, really, really important. Okay. So like you said, the number one threat is going to be that neighbor that did absolutely nothing to prepare, and now they don't have anything and you do. That's going to be your number one threat. So if you can incorporate them into your group, and basically you want to be part of this, you're going to work for food, basically. That's kind of how you have to do it. And there's very, very valuable people out there that you can integrate into your group that's going to help you. Okay. No, bartering does work. Merry Christmas. You heard my answer to that. Lay low in the beginning. After about 90 days, when the killing is worked itself out for the most part, people are going to group up. Okay. Then you're going to have towns coordinated off. There will be centers where there's going to be bartering after that. It's definitely going to happen. People are going to barter, because they're going to have things that you're going to need, things that you don't have that you're going to want, that's going to help you and your group. And if you have something else that somebody doesn't have, they're going to be willing to trade for that. But you need to be careful. I definitely will say that. You definitely need to be careful. Survival prepping 101. Yes, I talked about this again. Don't put all your food in one place. That's why I've talked about having caches, guys. If you have food buried in several different places, and not just food, okay, supplies, weapons, ammo, whatever you need to have that's going to help you, water purification stuff, all those different things buried in different locations under the frost line. That's important too. Remember that. Don't keep it all in one spot. Have it spread out like that, and you're going to be, ready, better to go. If 10,000 people came up my hill and we're going house to house, we're going to have to get out of here, okay? But the thing is, it's like if I know that I have 10, 12, 15 different places where I have stuff, I can take off, get out of Dodge for a little while. We can come back, and we know where that stuff is going to be at. So that's very, very important. Living next to a lake is an advantage. Yes, it is. But what's going to happen if you live near a lake? Everybody and their brother is going to go to that lake and try to fish to get food. And how quickly do you think that lake would be fished out? Unless you could control that. And that would be very, very difficult to do, to control something like that. Unless you had a coordinated effort with everybody that lived around that lake to stop other people from fishing there, a lake is going to be fished out really, really quickly. But having the water access and stuff like that would be a good thing as well. Waterfowl, being able to, if the ducks are coming in and trying to get them and stuff like that too, that's going to be a good thing as well. Do I have a list of what I should get for SHTF? I do actually. I have a different list that I prioritizing list, if you will, that I have had that I try to. Okay, I got this, and then I check that off the list. I definitely do it that way. It's a very, very smart way to do things. Sit down, look at what you have, wants and needs. Again, what do I want and what do I need? What's going to help me survive? That's what you need to put on that initial list. Then you have this other list of wants, okay? Fill out that needs list first. Once you got that squared away, then you can go into the wants list. Water catchment, yep. I have right outside the house, off of the gutters, I have a 550-gallon tank that we use for a water catchment system. What if China and Russia invade? The last thing, okay, if China and Russia invaded, the last thing that any other country wants to do is invade this country, and I'm going to tell you why. Because so many people own guns in this country. I don't care if they landed 5 million troops on the ground, okay? Initially, they would take over territory, but eventually they would hit that stone wall of America where everybody has a gun. Guerrilla warfare would be rampant. Their numbers would be decimated in no time whatsoever. I truly believe that, because there's so many of us Americans that have weapons that we would repel them within short order. I really do believe that. Okay, and it would have to be guerrilla warfare just because of whatever stuff that they had. You got to remember too, our own army is going to fight them as well. So I don't think that realistically China or Russia invading would happen, because they know the cost of life would be phenomenal on their end and our end too. But I think that they know that. Let's see. Let's see. Get a generator. Yeah, having a generator is important, I think. Having a backup generator. I have 2 generators, one that I use and one that's my backup for that one. Okay. We use the generator more in the winter for backup power. In the summertime, it hardly runs at all. So, but it's a great thing to have. Again, in an EMP, that generator is toast. Okay. But right now, it's a great asset to have here at the homestead, is having that backup generator. Yeah, 800,000 people will be moving from California into New York within the next 3 years, somebody said. You know what? That wouldn't surprise me at all. Anybody that's young that lives in New York, now I can't speak for California, but I'm in New York, so I can speak for New York. I would highly recommend you get the heck out of here if you can, and resettle someplace else where it has lower taxes, more gun-friendly states, where you can get a good job. I lived in North Carolina for a year. I lived in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Plus, I was also in the service. Before then, I was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, down in Fayetteville. And when I moved down to New York or down to North Carolina to live, when I told people that I was from New York, they wanted to hire you in a heartbeat for one reason whatsoever. New Yorkers work. They know that we have a good work ethic. So they were looking, oh, you're from New York? Yeah, you're hired. I mean, now I'm going back into the early 90s, guys. So, but that was how it was. And I loved it down there. I wish I'd have never came back to New York, but I'm glad I did, because I have 2 great children and I got a great stepson as well. So, I mean, those are the positives of me coming back here. But other than that, I wish I had stayed in North Carolina. Loved it down there. Beautiful, beautiful state. If I go back south, I've talked about this too. I would, we'll talk about that in a second, Seeks the Truth. Yep. I would go back to either South Carolina or to Tennessee. Those would be the 2 states that I would really be looking at. Higher elevation in the mountains. That's where I would be. So somebody just talked about the red flag laws. That is insane to me, what's going on with these red flag laws. That there's no due process. You're guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent. You have to jump through hoops to prove that you're mentally fine, to get your weapons back when they can just come to your house and confiscate them. It's insane, the states that have that already. Maryland is one of them. A gentleman was killed in Maryland by the police. And, of course, they gave their version of why he died. So nobody's going to question that. And, it's a very, very sad situation. So, again, when I talked about caching stuff, having stuff off site, it should be weapons and ammo too, guys, because if you live in a red flag state, your stuff could be taken at any time and there's nothing you can do about it. And that could be a relative or an ex-wife or something like that. Oregon too. It's crazy. It's crazy. Mega tsunami. That's a good question too. I'm going to tell you what. When you have 80% of the people in the United States live on the coasts, within 100 miles of the coast, if a monster tsunami hit either the west coast or the east coast and came in that 100 miles, let's say, the loss of life would be catastrophic. Catastrophic. You have over in Africa, there's one volcano over there, and there's like this huge rift on this, what I think it's on an island. And basically what they said, it's a matter of time before that slides off into the ocean. And when that does, because it's already this huge, huge crack in it already, when that slides off into the ocean, it's going to send a huge tsunami to the East Coast, okay? And that's going to kill a tremendous amount of people. You couldn't give me property on the coast. I love the coast, Been down to, Florida many times, South Carolina many times. Love the ocean. I think it's beautiful to visit. But to live there full time would scare the crap out of me, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't want to be around that many people all the time anyway. But yeah, so a tsunami would be very, very bad. Very bad. That's why I like high elevation, guys. I'm telling you, high elevation is going to save your life. Under a boil order in Kansas, Department of Health and Environment. Yeah, that's some frightening stuff too. If they're doing a boil advisory, it's because things are really, really bad with the water. Again, if you have access, if you can access your own well, put in your own well and not have to drink the local municipality water, I would recommend that because, especially with the fluoride and everything else they're putting in the water, you don't need that in the water. It's not necessary. And it's been proven that fluoride is not doing anything to help you, as far as your health goes. So why are they putting it in our water? So, like I said, I love having my own well. If you can get your own well, or if you got a spring, access that spring and use that water instead. I mean, that's my advice on that. And definitely, if they're doing a boil advisory, I'd boil everything anyway, anything that came out of those taps, just to be on the safe side. Why do so many chats on disaster? Well, because people ask questions. That's what I'm talking, talking about different things, and they ask questions about different disasters, and I try to answer everybody's question that I can get to. All right, let's see. Do I keep inventory of my stock? Good question. I do. I have, let me see, I'll give you an example here. Let me see if I have this in here. If it's in this one, it's not in that one. It's in the other one. Hold on a second, guys. I will show you. Yeah, it's not in this one. All right, here's an example. I got a list. A lot of the stuff that I have packed away in different spots, and this is just a partial list. But here's an example, like red kidney beans, 45 pounds. Split green peas, 65 pounds. Black beans, 28 pounds. Rice, 320 pounds. And again, I told you kind of what I had in rice, but this is just one part in one spot. Lentils, 21 pounds. Lima beans, 15 pounds. Great Northern beans, 42 pounds. Pinto beans, 74 pounds. Black-eyed peas, 25 pounds. So there's just an example of different stuff that I have, okay? But yes, I keep an inventory of stuff. You need to really know what you have, your long-term storage stuff, and then your stuff that you're keeping in rotation. Your canned goods should be in a rotation, okay? Did I start my prepping journey as part of a spiritual calling? In a way, yes. I had, when I saw what happened with Hurricane Katrina, like I've talked about, that was my wake-up call. And I realized really, really quickly that we need to rely on ourselves and not on the government to take care of us. And so with getting going with that, and then, with starting on YouTube and going with that, I felt it's my duty, I guess is the right word, to try to inform, to try to help as many people as I possibly can. It's part of the nursing thing in me. When you're a nurse, you nurture, okay? You want to take care of people. You want to help people. And for me, it's the same thing with prepping. The more people that I can, number one, wake up, the more people that I can help myself when something goes bad. It's ingrained in me to help people. And so with being a prepper and living off grid and sharing our journey and showing that as an average guy, I'm a nurse, guys. That's what I do by trade. I'm not a skilled carpenter. I'm not a skilled electrician. I am not a skilled plumber. I'm not skilled with doing solar systems. Wasn't skilled in anything like that, okay? So coming here and doing this journey, I've learned a lot. And practical practice, hands-on learning is a huge, huge thing. And if you're going to walk the walk, if you're going to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. So it was a natural progression for me to do this. And I've learned so much. And I want other people to learn from my mistakes. I don't want people to do the same things wrong that I did, be it with the solar system or, how we did stuff. Like when we put in our system, we had the well already in place. So when we were getting ready to put in the storage tank, originally, now I'm sitting in the back of my house. Originally, we were going to put the storage tank on this side of the property. Okay. And my plumber said, I think it would be better if you put it over here. And he goes, let me explain why. And once he sat down and explained to me why it would be better to have it over there, I went, this is the guy that knows what he's talking about. This is the guy he's a plumber for a living. That's his job. So I'm going to listen to people like that know what they're talking about. And we did it that way. And it was a great thing, and it's worked out fantastic. Okay. So those are things that I want you to think about. And so that's what my journey was. And like I said, if you want to call it my calling, I want to help. And that's why I got into this. That's why initially it was to help my family. And then I'm like, man, if I could reach out and talk to other people that their families think that they're crazy because they prep, it's not crazy. It's very, very normal. It's a smart thing to do. So I think that that's really important that people realize that, and so that's why I do it. And I love it. I will talk prepping to anybody, anytime. It drives my kids crazy. It's a passion for me. It really, really, truly is. And if you want to call it a calling, it's that too. Let's see. Leave liberal states so you can be with like-minded people. Guys, I'm going to tell you what. I do live in New York, okay? You would be surprised once you get outside of the cities how many like-minded people are out here. Country folks are more conservative. We're very, very like-minded. And so it's just, the cities control the state. New York State is always going to be a Democratic state, okay? Always going to happen because of the cities. New York City, Long Island, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, those cities are predominantly Democratic hubs, if you will. And so they control the state. And the rest of the state could be completely, red, but it doesn't make any difference. It's always going to go to the Democrats in any election or anything like that. Let's see. Oh, James, you live by me in Pennsylvania? If you're near me, James, shoot me an email, preparedness1@yahoo.com. Give me your number. I'll give you a call so we can talk, okay? So, let's see. Chest of beads. New York Island was bought for a chest of beads. Yeah, they screwed people, man. They really, truly did screw people, And think what that land is worth today. Have you tried to buy some of that real estate? That's crazy down there. Do I think the left has a chance against conservatives in a war? Absolutely not. No way. Not even close. And the sad thing is with that, left, right, again, they're the same. Okay, guys? They're really, truly the same. But if a group of complete lefts came after more conservative groups, like, let's say Antifa, let's say a group of young, because here, let's talk about what is Antifa? It's rich, middle-class kids that, want to lash out and, screw the system and screw everybody. We all want communism or whatever, okay? That's what Antifa is. If those people armed up and tried to come after true conservatives, they would be wiped out in a heartbeat because they don't have the skills. Most of them are not militarily trained. I almost guarantee that, okay? Most conservatives are militarily trained, if you will, or ex-Army, ex-Navy, ex-Marines, whatever, okay? They would get eaten up in a heartbeat. It would be a joke, to be honest with you. So I don't see that happening. I really, truly don't. I hope it doesn't anyway, because I would hate to have to kill fellow Americans if I don't have to. We always have to boil our water in southern Michigan. Yeah, that's sad. I mean, I'm sorry that you guys got to do that. Try to do, like I said, if you can get another water source, do it if you can. I know up there, once you get into certain areas and they got all kinds of issues that they're not taking care of, think about what that water's doing to you and your family. It might be better to get out of Dodge, to be honest with you, if you can. If you can move, relocate, do it. Get someplace better. That's not good. Gold, beans, and bullets. Okay. Well, tell me how well the gold tastes when you try to eat it. That's one of the things I'm going to say. I'm not a big believer in gold. I do believe in having some silver on hand, but I think your hardcore commodities, having food, other tradable goods, are going to be worth way more than gold ever will be in an SHTF event. That's my opinion. Okay. Let's see. For your water, use powdered pool shock. Yeah, you can use that as well. Yes, you can use powdered pool shock to help purify your water. There's a lot of ways to purify your water if you have to. Okay, you know what? That's a very, very. He said we need to have the kids on one night so you guys can ask them questions. You know what? I don't know if Eddie would do it because his attention span is like very minuscule, so he wouldn't want to do it long. But I'll have Heather come on one night, and we will definitely do that. We'll have her sit down, and you guys can ask her questions on here. I think that would be very, very cool. And that way you can get a teenager's perspective of stuff, and she can talk to you guys and go from there. I think that would be fun. So yeah, we will. That's a good idea. We'll definitely do that. I live next to a hospital. Should I be worried? As long as you're not in the hospital. Like I said, I think hospitals will be overrun. If especially worst case scenario, again, low profile. Be the gray man if you can be. Don't show people that you have something ahead of time. You don't want to be putting yourself out there like that. That would be a very dangerous thing to do in the beginning. Try to be as low key as you can. I think after about 3 months, when the killing dies down, the killing won't stop, guys. I'm telling you that right now. But I think that initial 3-month period, a lot of bad guys are going to be dead. A lot of good guys are going to be dead. Groups are going to be formed up by that point, and it's going to be survival of the fittest. But I think that there's a lot of good people out there that will still try to work together. I that's my hope. I think there's a lot of good people in this country, a lot of good people. So I think that, and I'm not white, red, yellow, black, all colors, because we're all human beings, okay? So I think that there is a lot of really, truly good people that will try to help each other, okay? I really, truly do. That's my hope anyway. Well, I'll tell you, see, the Watchman just said a lot of people want me to talk about the FEMA camps. I will definitely talk about them in the next video. This one's almost done. Our time is almost up. We got a couple of minutes today. I'll tell you what I will do. Today is Wednesday, when I do my next live chat. That'll be the topic. If you want to talk about FEMA camps, we'll do that next Wednesday when we do the live chat next Wednesday. So look for that then, okay? And we will definitely do that then. So, let's see. Well, anyway, guys, we're at that time here, so I'm going to get ready to jump off of here. And thank you for all the questions. A lot of great questions today, guys. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Love the interaction. I love the questions. I hope I answer your questions well enough that you get your answers. I can't get to everybody when you have 650 or 680 people in the chat. It's kind of hard, but I try to do the best that I can. So as I end all my videos, I want to say, remember, guys, we are all in this together. So we really need to try to help each other if we can, before and after an event. Okay. Remember, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every single day. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen. So that's important. It really, really is, because life is so short and so precious. And I know that, like with my kids, I want them to know how I feel every day. And remember STD, guys. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from getting there is yourself, okay? So everybody have a great night. Thanks for being part of the chat today. I hope I answered some of your questions, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. You'll see me in the video tomorrow, but so I will talk to you later. So remember, I'm going to be doing live chats 3 days a week. It's Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, okay? So I hope to see you guys on the next live chat. Have a great night. Prepper Nurse 1 out for now.